Hey everyone, I wanted to speak a little about Hyperlight Breaker, which is doing pretty well in the Steam charts at the moment. But you might have noticed that it's getting some pretty negative reviews about its early access release, and pretty much every time I've brought up this game with people so far, they've said, well, isn't that really bad? So I'm putting together a quick video to sum up what's wrong with Hyperlight Breaker so far. Let me know what you think. Let's talk about what this game is to start off with, and don't be fooled by Steam tags. This is not an action-adventure RPG, but lies pretty comfortably in the roguelite looter extraction style genre. You can play with friends, but I've been going solo and jump into this world called the Overgrowth. And you try and loot up some weapons, passives, armor, and active abilities, and work your way through fighting against epic monsters called crowns. You want to try and make it to the extraction point and then head home with your loot. Although the map does get progressively harder the longer that you stay. That's all pretty simple so far, so why is it getting bad reviews on Steam? Well, let's talk about the game start. When you jump into Hyperlight Breaker, you get no cutscene, no explanation, and very little clues about what you're meant to be doing. It feels like you've stumbled upon someone else's save and loaded in, and now it's time to work out what's the deal. So once you've managed to work out how to enter the Overgrowth, you meet with some of the more punishing early game combat that I've experienced. I mean, this is hard, rage-inducingly hard. You have a number of different combat inputs to learn, such as range shooting, active abilities, and melee combinations, and you get zero time to learn the ropes, as any enemy within eyesight of you is going to aggro and then charge straight in your direction. Now, it does get slightly easier once you've picked up some armor, but the fact that Lightbreaker starts you off with a glass cannon style build, and I only got access to the tank, which is much more forgiving, upon dying multiple times, well, it kinda doesn't make any sense to me. On one of my first runs, an enemy charged me and did something close to a third of my health in one hit. The combat itself is pretty fun. There is a lot of hate towards the parry system at the moment, and I would have loved some in-game tips about how to use this well, because you're often fighting 7 or 8 or more enemies at once, and it's definitely hard to implement with some attacks seemingly unable to be dodged by your dash. I'm going to add in here that I get some serious frame drops in these combat sequences, and there's a lot of complaints about the optimization of Hyperlight Breaker. But this is a roguelite game, dying is part of the journey, and you will level up quickly. Well, yes and no. I'm a good 3 hours into my playthrough so far, and I'm still not 100% sure about the different currencies in the game, and exactly what you're meant to be doing to level up. You gain access to different shops by collecting some cards, and there's this healing ability that I think you should get from the start, that you gain access with a currency that I haven't got yet. And then there's a bunch of other items I need to buy weapons and armor beyond the main simple currency that you collect. Early game in a roguelike, I want some visible improvement for decent little runs. Things that make my life just a bit easier alongside some information and learning the skills. But here I was just confusedly walking back to the launch pad to get ready to die once more. Even when you do upgrade simple things like HP, it's small, like 5 HP points, which is nothing. I want to finish here with a few gameplay mechanics that seem to have been added to give layers of complexity, but really feel more about giving you pain without there being much of a reward or a fun factor. The time limitations to runs at a level of pressure that doesn't make sense to me, and feels more familiar in multiplayer games, such as how the cycle used to be, as a means to get you to meet up at an extraction point. Working through the map is actually quite fun, but would be much better without these time restrictions giving you added pressure and way too many enemies distracting you. I am never a fan of durability mechanics, and losing stacks on your best weapons and passives when dying is really harsh. I've just lost some of my best items attempting to defeat the crown for the first time, and now I'll have to just go back to just regular looting in the hope of finding another build that I think might be able to sustain the damage they're putting out. To gain access to the crown fights, you need to collect prisms, which kind of act like a key system in themselves. But then you also need to find some random keys to get access to these prisms. It takes away some of the flow to the runs and adds in random looting, which can be really frustrating. I mean, you could say that Hyperlight Breaker is exactly why people don't like early access launches, because a lot of this I feel will be fixed, and I'm curious how much legitimate playtesting was done here to get feedback. The developers have said they're working hard on the case, just don't get me started on the hoverboard and drowning mechanics. At the end of the day, I actually really want to jump in and keep playing, just some of these issues are making it tricky to not want to Alt F4 out of the game. I'm Beggles. If you've enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I focus mainly on indie games and roguelikes, and I'm aiming for 3,000 subs this year. Thanks for watching.